is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer or set of viewer questions. And that is, how do you keep a sense of being energized, or really what I feel is a sense of hope, after you have really kind of experienced a tumultuous path? Perhaps you've been in relationships with people who have been overwhelming, who have been acting as a sort of hypercritical presence in your life, causing a series of brainwashing, gaslighting, self-doubt of yourself, and furthermore, sort of a shutting down of your own desires, the own real, genuine you, to a state where basically you don't feel safe or trustworthy expressing yourself, or furthermore, most importantly, following your desires. Your desires are your interests, your goals, your dreams, your objectives, and really to fulfill these, you have to have a sense of hope. If you don't have a sense of hope, if you don't have a sense of belief, if you don't have a sense of faith, you will not go after, believe in, and continue to follow really the ideals, desires, dreams, or inspirations of your true self, of your highest self, that which has not been wrought with gaslighting, brainwashing, or the hypercriticism or overwhelm that people will experience after they've been in a relationship with someone who is difficult, someone with perhaps a personality disorder, a mental illness, a unquenchable need to control or have power over others. So as we're discussing in previous videos, this is different from a leader, different from sort of someone who might be a mentor. When we talk about the content of the book that I'm writing, I discuss how important it is to have a mentor or someone that you truly look up to. For example, you might really look up to one of the Obama girls, Malia. Perhaps she might be, someone who is a mentor. You look up to her, the way she carries herself, or, her sister going into Harvard, her style. There might be something about her, interest in recovering the laws that govern humanity and to be supportive in nature. You might look at her life and see her as a mentor, or there might be a religious figure, or there might be someone else who you look up to. So this we might see as a mentor, someone who you really admire. And this is going to be different from someone who really seeks to control you, manipulate you through criticism, through brainwashing, through gaslighting, through insults, really sort of trying to put and stamp out your desires and the momentum of hope, trust, and faith in your life. So there's a whole different experience that you might have, experienced in your life with these people. And the problem with those people who are narcissistic or psychopathic, or perhaps have a mental illness, is that there is a feeling of being sort of an all-encompassing engulfing or enmeshment by this person, meaning that they become front and center and a priority to you in your life, furthermore above and beyond yourself and your own priorities, your own needs, your own desires. So you begin to get into really a state of learned helplessness, which means you have to conform to the standards or the criticism or judgment of this people or this group of people. You feel, the experience of the scapegoating, where the stronger people are picking on the weaker, or they are making the weaker thereof, so they can continue and perpetuate their feeling of being in control, of being the number one, of being the boss cow, the boss dog, the alpha this, the alpha that, whatever it is that they are ego, hell-bent on. It is a feeling of having to be weakened and then continually made to feel weakened by or that these, people are, trying to break you down. In other words, there's a perpetual pecking order to this dysfunctional system, and then somehow you find yourself in the midst of a very dysfunctional system and you can't get out. It is like emotional quicksand. You feel like it is like a magnet to steel. You can't get away. You feel the energetic pull every time you try to go in the direction of your dreams or try to get up enough energy to have hope to bring you out of this learned state. This is a learned, helpless state. That is really what complex PTSD is. This is what PTSD is. This is what really, a series of environmentally created depression is. It is a learned state. You've learned to be subdued. You've learned to be silenced. You've learned to feel bad. You've learned to feel like a bad person. You've learned to follow the wrong crowd. You have learned unhealthy behaviors, unhealthy eating behaviors. You become addicted to the sugars, the bread, the greasy food. You become powerless then over what you put in your mouth and then the words that you speak and the feelings that you feel. You become really sort of imprisoned by this learned, and then what then furthermore becomes reinforced by the addictive qualities of these very strong emotional patterns, which cause a deep groove in the hardwiring of the brain. The neurochemicals that fire and wire together are then, more and more trudging over like a well-beaten path in, a grass field. If you've ever seen, the way the deer will walk along a path, it can just be, the tall grasses, but if the deer trek over and over and over again, pretty much you can see their path. And then other animals might follow along with it, and then you can see where they sleep. This is similar to what occurs in the wiring and firing of the neurobiology and the neurohormones which your brain begin to create. This becomes addictive. So you become addicted to helplessness. You become addicted to apathy, which means you don't feel like really you want to do anything. You feel very listless. You feel unenergized. You feel sort of, a feeling of being stuck or blocked. You kind of are just standing there and you cannot take action. You become inactive. You become uninspired. You feel like your life is very mediocre. You've learned to lose the quality or experience of hope. And this then is perpetuated by those individuals who have overwhelmed you with negativity, negative emotions, or the preponderance that their viewpoint supersedes or is priority to your own. And this becomes, a learning or numbing out of the self. And then you become so, based and focused on those fear-based thoughts. And then before you know it, you're really embedded in that. So when we talk about going no contact, we talk about really disidentifying and moving away and moving out of the proximity of these people, of their viewpoints, of their voice, out of the tone of their voice, out of their looks, out of their shaking fingers, out of their blame, out of their silent treatment, out of their own condemnation of you. And, it is very important then if you have, never experienced or you have not felt comfortable with, feeling positive because, you have been perhaps criticized or downplayed, for that or scapegoated. You can't do that. We can't do that. We're not going to support you for that. Perhaps this could even be your parents where they didn't support you emotionally. They didn't, sit and listen. They didn't sit and help you to process your emotions. They didn't sit and help you to guide you. They didn't, the whole thing is with parenting is that, when children act up and are rebellious, that's really truly a cry for help. It's not that they hate you. It's not that they're mad at you. It's not because you're a bad parent. It's because it is a cry for help. They cannot navigate their own emotions. Children's emotions are very raw. They cry, they're sensitive, they get hurt easily, they get angry, they get frustrated. They are immature. Their brains have not learned how to navigate their own feelings. They have not learned to navigate their own emotions. They have not learned. They need a teacher. They need a parent. They need the guidance. They need someone to comfort them, not to berate them for crying. I mean, there's a comedian who, laughs because, he was smacked for going wah, and crying as an infant. I mean, basically that's what ends up happening in narcissistic relationships. They end up, insulting you for having emotions, for having a viewpoint, which is what your God-given inalienable right and actual truth is. You're supposed to, differences make the world grow. Different perspectives make the world grow. It is a bridging together and not a separating, and, the hatred that makes the world grow. It is the unconditional love and then the ability to listen. However, if you are surrounded by people who have shut you down and not let you experience hope, and have not been there to help you move in the momentum of your desires, your dreams, your interests, you might have a flash second, 5-second inspiration, which is often how quickly inspiration or your true desires will be. But if you don't back them up with hope, faith, and belief, they will never, ever be pursued, and they will never become a reality. So then when we talk about living with a narcissist, you're living under an illusory relationship, which is that they are better than, have control of, and are more important than you. And that really, the codependent relationship then is when then you take their viewpoint as the priority. You take their viewpoint as, face value. You're basically living for somebody else. That is the complete, in my mind, in my viewpoint, in my take on things, that is the true learned helplessness, when you're truly living for somebody else. And this is really, really painful, because if you are living for somebody else, you can't really live for yourself. You feel that there's something wrong, inherently uncomfortable. You feel guilty. You feel selfish. The old, guilt. This could be a religious guilt. This could be a familial guilt. You feel guilty for perhaps leaving the family pack, for moving across the country, maybe even moving to another country. Perhaps you have a calling. Perhaps you have a track that you want to blaze. You are a trailblazer. Perhaps you need to break free from generations of mental illness or abuse. This could be going back through multiple generations where your ancestry has been hardwired and fired to treat the girls this way, or to treat the boys this way, or to treat, the this way. The blonde-haired one, the brown-haired one, the brown-eyed one, the green-eyed one this way. This can be inbred and rewired and fired through several generations, and maybe you want to break that pattern. You want to break the cycle. We talk about the pattern interrupt and going no contact and what that means. That can basically mean physically not going, not being around them, not connecting with them through email, not being subjugated to their abuse, their looks, their disrespect. You need to get in touch with your own hope, your own inspiration, your own desires, the own real you, and then you'll feel a sense of purpose and hope and belief. You need to do that, though, through no contact, and then coming oftentimes to a place of stillness and being versus the doing, or this is sort of the old hardwiring and firing that someone who has overwhelmed you or manipulated you by their self-importance, or their needing you, or you propping up their ego as supply, sort of breaking through the cycle of that role whatever that toxic pattern has become from you, you know it and you need to identify it and you need to understand that is basically what I call NOD thinking, negative orderly direction thinking, which means getting sucked back into the feeling states, the B states, the thought pattern states that create, really sort of or help you, to perpetuate and rememorize and, rehearse all those old feelings. So it's allowing that to stop and to be committed to living life for yourself and not for another person, not conforming to another person's standards, not conforming to another person's guilt, not conforming to another person's projection of you, being able to live completely committed 100% to your own desires and hope. And so becoming, when you do this, and we're going to go through a little bit more of the steps, but you become immune to and inoculated to that toxicity. It no longer enters into your energetic field. It no longer has bearing or importance on you. The problem with narcissistic relationships is that people tend to, because of what they have been taught, they over-idealize or over-prioritize this person in their life. They don't have a realistic place for them. They can't say that they're over there, or they have, a very degraded sense of them, which keeps perpetual anger and then, keeps you trauma bonded like an anchor to your past to this person. So it's like, it's like a tug of war. It's like the magnet to the steel. Once again, you feel an energetic pull back, down, unhappy, angry because of this anger, the degraded sense of them. So you need to get a state of realistic perspective of them, oftentimes which is infused with really sort of a disinterest, a dispassion, a neutralization, a neutralizing, which means just a kind of sort of peace and a sort of stillness and a lack of worry about this person and who they are and what they meant to you and where they're going in their life. So it's to get that into only, you need to come to that feeling in B state only through the awareness and the understanding that they are them and so it is. That is who they are and so it is. It doesn't make you a bad person. All the meaning that you tend to then extrapolate or take from this, I was a failure, I didn't live up to their standards, I've been defeated, I am, and then you've got this stigma going for yourself. You've got this negative label like loser written on your forehead. No matter what outfit you're changed, you feel like you've got loser written on you, and you try to change this, change that. Rip loser off of your forehead and let it go. Stop being defined in living your life according to someone else's projection or someone else's blame game and shifting onto you. Stop feeling that. Stop being that. And then stop rememorizing that. Let it go. Begin to relax all the muscles and sinews of your body and get into a state of peace. You need to have that centered, and you need to have that sort of cohesion within your gut, which oftentimes is, important for you to, understand that you can fuel this negativity in your gut, your solar plexus, oftentimes perpetuated through the foods that you eat. So if you're addicted because of this relationship or because of this experience to a lot of toxic food, if you're, drinking a lot of alcohol, eating a lot of bread, a lot of empty calories, you're eating a lot of cookies, donuts, things that do not give nutrition, things that don't, give you the live enzymes like in the fruit and vegetables. If you're eating a toxic diet, you can look at the ecosystem of your gut. What are you doing there to keep you kind of sluggish? And how is that rememorizing and rehearsing the negative emotions which you feel and then in your heart and then are generated through your central nervous system through what you're thinking, and then, is causing you to armor and causing you to be defensive and, hold this anger in all the time. That becomes your I am and then your identity if you're always sort of entangled up in this. This is sort of the learned anxieties. Learning, perhaps you're, you know, you can't stop flexing, you know, a drink of milk. You're so wired up. It's like, it always cracks me up. You know, you see these bodybuilders and they're always tensed up. You know, they're drinking a glass of milk and it looks like they're lifting a 50-pound weight. You know, learn to relax. It is okay. It's okay to soften your emotions. It's okay to soften your body. You know, it is okay to feel safe where you are. That feeling of safety, of being you in your place in the universe, is where you need to come to in that be state. And furthermore, it is to understand that it is that feeling of safety that you then need to then realize that you can then live in that, and that you don't have to change the dynamic of your relationship with this other person. You can let it go and go no contact, which means live life through your eyes, your heart, your new positive early direction thinking, so your energy can change, so you get the momentum of hope and following your desires. You need to then kind of sort of latch onto and then sort of reattach to what I feel is very important, is a new mentor in your life that you really sort of admire. It's very important, I feel, for you to have a mentor, either someone who you know through media, someone who you look up to and admire. It can just be their aura, it can be their charisma, it can be a musician, it can be someone who has a certain style, it can be someone, you know, or it can even be studying of a certain culture or an indigenous group, like, you know, or a specific culture. You know, you might like the Latin cultures or the European cultures, or, you know, the Africas or the Saudi Arabias. You know, there might be a certain culture, the Ireland, you know, the Italian. You know, maybe you want to begin to do some religious studies or cultural studies, or maybe you're interested in innovation or the future or IT. You know, and then you can get, you know, mentors like the Steve Jobs or the Elon Musk, you know, and learn and read about them. Perhaps you're into Obama. I mean, whomever you're into, begin to read like biographies, biologies, cultural studies. Begin to do some of these studies and have a mentor, and cut out a picture of them and put them right on your refrigerator. Put them on your recovery journal. Put them up in your bathroom. There's nothing wrong with this. And furthermore, that'll give you an understanding then where you can draw in and recover a sense of hope, and then help to trigger you and sort of jog and sort of, you know, light up your positive early direction thinking, being, and then plugging this into your appointment book, and then perhaps even taking a recovery date and, you know, go to a bookstore, purchase a book, get some posters, you know, find some resources, or go out, you know, and actually pursue, and then begin to take action, and then keep your eyes on the prize. Don't look back. It's very important for you to keep your eyes on this focus, so you can begin to become modeled by the new hands of hope, become modeled by the new emotions of faith and belief, and so that your positive early direction thinking can begin, and then you can live in the solution, you be the solution, and then you get that transformation. It's really all about that transformation, and you have to ignite it. You have to get that spark, and you have to follow up that momentum. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe